Hi students, today we are going to start on a new chapter, chapter 5, but our focus today will be 5.1, solving quadratic equations by factorization. So before we start, we must understand or at least review what is factorization. So three things. First, when we want to factorize, we always check that is there any common factors in the expression. So for example, we need to check whether there is common factors in the expression. So example, we have x squared plus 4x. So if you realize both terms have a common x, so we'll factorize x out and we'll get x plus 4. Secondly, we know about some special identities, and one of the most focused one is the difference of squares. For example, we have 2x squared minus 18. We cannot do the difference of square first, which is a squared minus b squared, because we realize that both the term 2x squared and 18 has a common factor 2. Okay, we'll bring them out. And then we see that within the bracket is equivalent to a squared minus b squared, which when we factorize becomes x minus 3, x plus 3. The third one, which all of you are very familiar with, is our multiplication frame. Okay, to recall, let us do one question on multiplication frame. Example, okay, let us draw our multiplication frame over here at this area. So two of the terms we can especially or guarantee it will be in this box. And what gives you x squared? You will say x multiplied by x. And what are the factors of 21? 1 and 21, 3 and 7. So a natural good guess will be 3 and 7. And this box will become 3x and the other one becomes 7x. How do we ever get 4x? It's 7x minus 3x. So I'll put a minus sign over here and here a minus sign. So this will give us x minus 3, x plus 7. And this is our multiplication frame. So in each case, by factorizing the expression, we can actually get at least two factors. So what are the two factors? Okay, and where is my two factors? 1 and 2. After the review on factorization, I want to discuss about zero product rule. Some of you might have heard of it, some of you might have not. So as a start, and before we begin solving the quadratic equation, let's talk about this. What is zero product rule? It states that if the product of two or more factors equal to 0, then the factors must be equal to 0. So if I have two factors, a and b, if I multiply them together and it gives me 0, what can we say about them? So for you to explore, probably let's take a to be 5. And my question to you will be, what value must b be such that 5 multiplied by that gives you 0? And all of you will agree with me that b must be 0 such that 5 multiplied by 0 gives you 0. Similarly, what if I give you b is 3? What should the value of a be such that multiplied by 3 gives you 0? And all of you will also agree again, 0 multiplied by 3 gives me 0. Correct? From the values that we have tried out for a and b, what can we say in summary for the zero product rule? So if a multiply b gives me 0, we can safely say a is equal to 0 or b is equals to 0. Given the zero product rule, so how does this help us in solving quadratic equation? So suppose we have the following quadratic equation. X squared plus 4x minus 21 equals to 0. We can actually factorize the left-hand side. This is similar to the example that I gave you earlier. When we factorize using the multiplication frame, it gives us x minus 3, x plus 7 equals to 0. And if now we take the zero product rule in here, if we let this be A and we let this be B, what can we say when they multiply together? Either one of them is equivalent to 0 because of the zero product rule, so we can safely write it as x minus 3 equals to 0 or x plus 7 equals to 0. Then after which, we'll solve each of these individually. So for x minus 3 equals to 0, we will get x equals to 3. And for x plus 7 equals to 0, we will get x equals to negative 7. So these are the two solutions for our question. So some pointers to note when using the zero product rule. Number 1, the equation must be in the form of at least two factors, like the ones we see earlier, and the equation must be equals to 0. So for this question, our earlier quadratic equation is of this form. We must make sure that the right hand side is actually equals to 0, which is the one that I highlighted now. So if these conditions are not satisfied, then the zero product rule cannot be used. Regards to our zero product rule. So the first one, let us solve x squared plus 4x equals to 0. Okay, if you look at it, which factorization skill should we use over here? You realize that there are two terms, and the common terms about these two terms are x. So we'll take out x, and we get x plus 4 equals to 0. And you see that x refers to my a, x plus 4 refers to my b. So therefore, x equals to 0 or x plus 4 equals to 0. And x plus 4 equals 0, x will give me minus 4. So our two solutions will be x equals to 0 and x equals to minus 4. Question. Let us solve 2x squared minus 18 equals to 0. This is similar to the review question that we have under factorization. We will take out the common term and we get x squared minus 9 equals to 0. And this is the difference of square, which will give us x minus 3, x plus 3 equals to 0. And do you realize that there are three factors? 2, x minus 3, x plus 3. But 2 is definitely not equals to 0, so therefore our a and b is as follows. X minus 3 equals to 0 or x plus 3 equals to 0. And hence, x equals to 3 and x equals to negative 3. So our two solutions for this question will be x equals to 3, x equals to negative 3. So question 3. Question 3 is slightly different, so let's look at the question first. We are supposed to solve x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals to 24. And if you realize, our condition over here is not satisfied, whereby one of the side of the equal sign is not equals to 0. So we have to make one side becomes 0. So let's look at the 24 over here. We can actually make this equals to 0 by subtracting 24 on both sides of the equation. So we will subtract 24 for both sides of the equation. And if you realize, 24 minus 24 is equal. And what happens to the left hand side? X squared plus 4x minus 21 equals to 0. And on the left hand side, this is what we have solved earlier on using the multiplication frame, and we'll get x minus 3, x plus 7 equals to 0. Okay, solving them, we will get x equals to 3 and x equals to minus 7. So this is the two solutions for our question. If you look carefully what I've done just now, I make sure that one side equals to 0, and then we use factorization, whether by common terms, by difference of square, or by multiplication frame. So after the three questions that we have done early on, Do you all get a sense of how to solve quadratic equation by factorization? I hope you do. So in summary, when we want to solve a quadratic equation, we must do the following. Number 1, check that the quadratic equation is equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, rearrange the equation such that it is equal to 0. Simplify and factorize the quadratic equation, and then you'll use zero product rule to solve the quadratic equation. Okay, it might seem a lot for you all. Okay, let us try one last example. Okay, so the question will be, if I'm given solve x minus 2, x plus 4 equals to 27, you will see that first it's not equals to 0. We have to rearrange the equation such that it is equals to 0. But however, if you look on the left hand side, we need to do expansion before we can rearrange. Let's go ahead and expand them first. So it will become x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 8 equals to 27. And now, let us make one of the side become 0. X squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 8 minus 27 equals to 0. Okay, simplify first. X squared plus 2x minus 8 minus 27 gives me minus 35. Is one of the side equals to 0? Yes, it is. Can we do multiplication frame for the left-hand side? Let us do the multiplication frame now. Okay, we'll put x squared over here. We'll put 35 over here. It's negative 35, so let us put negative 35 over here. So what multiplied by what give you x squared? You will say x multiplied by x. And now about 35. What are the factors of 35? 1, 35, 5 and 7. So we'll use 5 and 7 in this case. This will be 5x in this box, 7x over here. In order for us to get 2x, we need to have 7x minus 5x. And therefore, over here, we have to put a minus 5. Okay. After factorizing, we'll get x minus 5, x plus 7 equals to 0. After this, can we solve? We can, because it's like a multiplied by b, our zero product rule. So this will be x minus 5 equals to 0, or x plus 7 equals to 0. And for x minus 5 equals to 0, we get x equals to 5, or x equals to minus 7. So what are the two solutions? X equals to 5 and x equals to minus 7. I hope after this example, you do understand how we take certain steps to check the condition that we can satisfy by solving quadratic equation. Right now, you can open the accompanying file to see further examples. You can try to solve those questions and check with the solution given. Next, you have to attempt the following questions on foolscap paper to be passed up on the next maths lesson.